This is a portrait I drew of Rick Grimes, our main character, brothers and sisters, played by Andrew Lincoln. If you like this, remember to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for more. Season 1, Episode 1, Days Gone By.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you the first of many reviews from the AMC hit TV show, The Walking Dead. I'm also doing reviews on the comics as well, but the show is definitely something that I enjoy, my whole family enjoys, very near and dear to my heart, and really is probably the best going show right now on TV. Arguably, certainly there's other ones that are in the running. Game of Thrones is one that comes to mind, but without further ado, though, let's get right into it. This is for Days Gone By. This is a 90-minute episode and was a pilot episode, and I'm going to give a quick rundown and a brief recap. When this happened, when this came out, this was advertised for on AMC, and this is back in 2010, and I think in about maybe September, my wife and I happened to see a preview for it, because they really had a big ad campaign going for it. And I thought, The Walking Dead, okay, that sounds kind of cool, probably some B horror movie type show. I had no idea, no knowledge about the comic or anything like that, had really been living under a rock. And AMC, to my knowledge, had always been American movie classics. They just played like old-time movies and westerns and shit like that, right? So little did I realize that in 2007 they had broke into, doing their own shows with Mad Men, and then eventually Breaking Bad, and then of course in 2010 with The Walking Dead, which is now the most watched, most popular, highest rated show on television, not just cable, just on television, period. So I remember, though, the excitement. My wife and I, it was Halloween 2010 that it premiered, and we have kids, so we were out on Halloween doing things, of course, trick-or-treating with our children. However, later on that night when things wound down, we were sitting around. I had set it to tape on the DVR, and we were sitting around wondering what we should do, winding down from the evening. The kids had finally passed out from being doped up on their sugar, and then, of course, calming down and just crashing. And I said, let's watch that Walking Dead. And we did. We watched it, and man, we loved it from the first episode. So the story takes place and was actually directed by, the first season was directed by Frank Darabont. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's done a lot of great Stephen King film adaptations from his books, and is just all around a really, really insightful, great director, because having done the comic books as well from the reviews that I've done now, I've seen where he had to kind of manipulate a lot of different things to really make up and to fill these shows in, and it isn't just garbage filler. It's really cool. So our story starts out with our main character, Rick Grimes, and his partner, Shane Walsh, sitting in a police car. They're both police officers in a small town, eating their lunch, and Rick is talking to Shane and confiding in him about a fight that he had with his wife, Lori. Is very upset at some of the things that she said to him in front of their son, Carl. Apparently, she just likes to fight sometimes, or that's how he makes it sound. And, of course, being married myself, that's how it always works out. The other person's always wrong. But long story short, Shane tries to console him as his friend, and ultimately they get called out on a, they get a call over the radio that there's a pursuit of a criminal. So they go and rush to the scene, and I guess they're going to try to set up a roadblock to get out ahead of of the escaped, the suspect that's being chased. He's been running all up and down back roads in this county in Kentucky or in Georgia where they're at. So they go and get out, and they put the spikes across the road, and with Shane and Rick and a couple of other cops, they back up behind their cars. They wait for this Corvette to come, steaming over the hill. It blows out its tires, flips off, and gets into the grass. What winds up happening is the suspects that are still alive, there's a couple of them, they come out shooting, guns blazing, and Shane and Rick and our other two heroic officers are able to take them down. Rick does wind up getting hit, but in his vest. And the significant parts of this, and what really sets up the whole episode, and even in the comic, but it went much quicker in the comic, is that then after he gets hit in the vest, and he's like, oh, geez, thank God, he's telling Shane, don't tell my wife, I almost died at work today, right? And as he goes and does that, a third suspect or assailant comes out of the back of the car and gets off a shot before Shane kills him and winds up hitting Rick, and this time not in the vest. So then the next several minutes of the episode are Rick dazing in and out of what we can only believe is like a coma. He's in the hospital. He's obviously been severely wounded. The next thing you know, and he kind of sees there's flowers and there's people coming and going, and his friend Shane's there, and he's kind of like dreaming, you know, and it's trying to simulate what a coma is like. You don't really have a realization of what time is and everything else. The next thing you know, he is awake and it's quiet. There's no beeping of machines. There's no hustle and bustle at the hospital. The flowers next to him are dead, and the clock is stopped. It's not moving, and he's like, what the hell? He's dehydrated. He's weak. It looks like he's barely alive. Falls out of bed. Winds up stumbling around the hospital, which is pretty much in ruins. I mean, things are ripped apart all over the place. He stumbles upon a door, a double door that's chained, and it says, "Don't open, dead inside." And it looks as if it was drawn in blood or something along those lines. You know, it's a dark color. And then as he's kind of walking away from that, you know, we see the first glimmers of a zombie. We kind of see some fingers poking out and everything. There's also a really cool scene that, to tell you the truth, because I had no knowledge of this, I mean, my wife and I were on the edge of our seat, terrified. He's in this hospital, and he's got to go out the stairwell. Obviously, the elevators aren't working. And he winds up having a book of matches, or finding a book of matches. Goes into the stairwell. It's pitch black, right? In typical horror movie fashion, when they light up the match, just that little cone of light around his face is there, and you're thinking, oh, shit, something's going to come out, right? Well, anyway, you know, and again, this is loaded with spoilers. So if you haven't seen season 1, episode 1, watch it. You know, pause this, watch it, then come back, because I'm going to spoil the shit out of it otherwise. But anyway, long story short, nothing winds up happening. But it is a tense couple minutes while he's getting down these stairs, you know, and these matches are going out one after another. He comes, you know, clambering out of the hospital, busting out of the hospital, and he sees rows and rows of dead bodies. A helicopter that's grounded, just complete chaos, right? He basically goes and he's stumbling, you know, and trying to get back from the hospital to his home. He has no idea what's going on. He's still out of it. Winds up seeing his first real actual zombie, and it's this half of a woman, you know, that's like kind of crawling towards him, you know, and he grabs this bicycle that he sees on the ground, and he rides to his house. He gets to his house. Of course, he's concerned for his wife and his child, their safety. He goes inside. The doors are already open. It looks like the house has been ransacked, and he's calling out, "Carl, Lori, Carl," you know. And the guy who plays Rick Grimes, Andrew Lincoln, is really just a great actor. He's a British guy, but you can't really tell. He puts on the nice southern accent for the show. And he just kind of collapsed to his knees, and he's just like defeated, you know. And I know what that feeling would be like, because I have wife and kids, you know. So he winds up going out of the house, and he's kind of just like walking around, sitting there. He sees somebody, or sees something, and it actually turns out to be a zombie. And all of a sudden he gets cold-cocked with a shovel, right? And as he's on the ground and he's cold-cocked with a shovel, a man walks up and shoots, this black guy walks up and he shoots a zombie in the head, the one that Rick was looking at, comes up and he talking to his son, and he says, "Oh, is he bit? Is he bit?" You know, and they're clamoring. He says, no, he called me Carl, though, you know, and he's asking him, "Are you bit, sir? Are you bit?" And the whole thing is really kind of cool, because this man takes him in. Rick winds up waking up, and, you know, this guy, we find out his name is Morgan. His son's name is Duane. You know, and he kind of winds up filling him in on the last several months. Rick has been in a coma for a while, and there's this outbreak that happened that they don't exactly explain why or how or anything else, but basically you get this fever when you get bit or scratched, and you more or less just burn up, you know, with this fever. You die, and then you come back a few minutes or a few hours later, and you're one of these Walking Dead, these zombies, right? So, you know, it's really kind of a cool exchange, and he tells him about his wife and how they lost his wife there, and they just couldn't really bear to leave the area. And these are all the things that really kind of fill in, because in the comic book there's not all this interaction between them. They wind up going to the local police station, where Rick, of course, has keys. They're able to take a hot shower, which Duane and his father Morgan haven't had in months. And Rick shaves and gets all suited up and ready to go, packs up whatever guns he can. He winds up giving Morgan and Duane a couple of guns and a car and a CB, and says, "Hey, listen, I will radio you at dawn every morning. I'm going towards this." He finds out that basically there was supposed to be like a camp, a refugee camp in Atlanta, right? And we understand that's a ways away, but he's got to get there because he wants to get to his family. So Duane and Morgan, you know, thank him, and they're going to be on their way. He winds up going and driving, and on his way out of town goes back to that first zombie that he saw, and it's kind of a profound thing, because he goes up to it and he kind of says, you know, "I'm sorry," and shoots it, you know. And he's apologizing, not so much, just because he's putting it out of its misery, is what it is. You know, he's come to the realization that the world has gone to shit, that there's zombies, that the dead have risen again and are roaming the earth, and then, of course, he's on his way to find his family. On his way into Atlanta, he is trying to broadcast out on his CB or on his radio, you know, to see if there's anybody out there, you know, if there's anybody else out there listening. And it's kind of a quick but cool scene. We wind up seeing a survivor camp, a camp of survivors that is somewhere outside of Atlanta. And we see an older gentleman, you know, who's kind of trying to, you know, tune in and catch it. He's only catching some of what's happening, because Rick's talking about how he's headed down this highway into Atlanta. If anybody's there, please, you know, please respond. He's trying to respond to him, but he's losing the signal. We wind up going and seeing then Shane, his partner, who goes and comes up, and so now we know that he has something to do, and there's a tie-in with it, and we see him kind of come up and try to help with the radio, and he's like, yeah, sorry, you know, after a few minutes of trying, he goes, whoever it was, he's gone, right? And then we go and we see, and we're introduced for the first time to, and Shane, too, is played by a great actor. I was able to meet him at the Comic-Con recently here in Chicago, John Bernthal. So he's really just a great actor and a great guy from what I, you know, could gather from the few minutes I talked with him. But we then are introduced for the first time, and we actually see for the first time, other than in a picture, we see Rick's wife, his wife Lori. Shane goes and walks up to her, and he's pretty friendly with her. She wants to go and put some signs by the road, and he tells her, no, that's not cool, and she's all pissed off. She goes back to her tent. They're all camping. There's an RV. There's like a campsite. And he goes and winds up talking with her, and as he comes up to her in the tent, you know, he gets a little bit, you know, physical, a little grabby, a little smoochy. Now, in the comic, they explored this a little bit, but it was kind of a one-time thing. And again, in this, I don't know how much time has passed, but boy, I tell you, you know, I don't know. I am messing with another man's wife. That's just that's not going to end well, buddy. You know. So and then we also see his you know, Rick's son Carl as well, and a number of others we can see are at this survivor camp. Rick, of course, wasn't able to get in touch with them and has no idea that they're actually there. But they do look like they're a few miles outside of Atlanta, because you can see. You know, in the distance, you can see the buildings of Atlanta. So it's actually, you know, actually pretty cool. And then of course we go back to Rick. He winds up running out of gas on the way and stumbles across a farm where there was a family that committed mass suicide inside of the house to the farm. But he finds a horse out in the pasture and winds up getting on him and riding it into Atlanta for the rest of the way. Because you got to understand, this is like maybe 100, 200-mile journey. I don't know. He's going through the night into the next day. So when he gets into Atlanta, everything is quiet initially. He's riding this horse in, and it's really kind of cool, the scene. One of the iconic scenes is him riding on horseback down this empty highway, and 5 lanes going into the city are empty, but all the lanes coming out, there's just, you know, obviously the traffic is stopped because everybody is, you know, dead or left or whatever. Everybody was trying to get out of the city, so it should tell you right there this is a bad sign. So he goes into Atlanta, this city of a few million people, and sees a helicopter and starts heading towards where he saw the helicopter fly by. Some zombies start, you know, kind of hearing him, the clip-clap of his horse, and getting up and getting off of buses and out of cars and everything like that, and start following him. He knows that, you know, on a horse with just a few of them, he'll be okay, but he winds up going around the corner, and I mean, there's like literally thousands of them. I mean, the whole street is just clogged with them. They're just kind of all standing around. They all start coming towards him. He tries to get away. Eventually, they gang up on him, you know, and they overwhelm him. They wind up getting his horse. He gets thrown from the horse, falls onto the concrete, you know, scampering away. Zombies coming at him. He starts shooting them left and right, you know, with whatever he can, as he winds up crawling under this nearby tank. The bag of guns that he had is gone. It's fallen into the street. The horse is being mutilated and eaten, destroyed by all these things. And it's really just like a cool, grisly scene. And then going back, you know, now and recently reading the comics did not do this scene justice at all, because in the show it was just so well laid out. So the episode ends shortly after that. He's surrounded by zombies. He crawls underneath this tank and he's firing. He's got this big ass, it looks like a 357 Magnum, and he's got this big ass, you know, hand cannon, and he's shooting these things. He's got one bullet left, and he looks up and puts it to his head, and there's this profound moment where he looks at it and he goes, "I'm sorry, Lori and Carl, you know, I love you." And as he looks up, and the zombies, of course, are coming in around him, you know, underneath this tank, looks up, the hatch to the bottom of the tank was open, and he scampers up into it and is able to close the top to it, right? So the zombies aren't able to get in. He's in this tank, you know, because you got to remember, this was a war zone. Everything's torn apart. Nothing's left but the dead. He winds up finding there's a soldier inside the tank that winds up kind of turning, looking over at him, and he has to wind up shooting him with his last bullet. He's deafened by that because you're inside this metal tank, and of course firing a gun, the discharge from it, you know, it's probably similar to getting hit by like a flash grenade, I guess. The episode ends up shortly after that, though. He winds up sitting in there and he's basically just like, God, what am I going to do, right? And all of a sudden, something comes across the radio and goes, hey, you. Hey, you. He's like, what the hell? You know, and coming across again, you know, on the radio, and it says, hey, you. Yeah, the dumbass in the tank. You know, and that's how the episode ends. It's kind of cool. It shows this panned out shot from the top of the tank and it just kind of like rising up and showing just all the hundreds and thousands of zombies that are in the area and basically that he is fucked, right? So all in all, this was just a great episode. It's something that, I mean, for my wife and I, and now 2 out of our 3 kids watch it with us too, my brother, my sister-in-law. I tell anybody about it who will listen. It is a great show. If you have not seen it yet, watch it. And if you've seen it and you're watching my reviews, hopefully you enjoy the enthusiasm and the things that I bring to it and the insight. I certainly really just love the show and everything about it, and I do some original artwork, which you saw at the beginning of the video, and will continue to do so because I really, like I said, just think that this is the best running show on TV right now. So let me know what you think, though, brothers and sisters, in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, that like button. It always helps, but only do it if you think I deserve it. And then, of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
As always, thanks for watching, brothers and sisters. And remember, join the Nerd Nation. It's the right thing to do. Trust me. Tell them Jim sent you.